So as you know, our significant systems for referral revenue is about committing to a process, inspiring others to do business with you or refer business to you, and finally to get referrals. And it also means give referrals, CIG. So now I'm going to tell you a story, and instead of telling it to you right now, I was interviewed recently for a TV show called the Business Spotlight. So I'm going to give you the story off of that. As you listen to the story, watch for 3 significant elements that made it work.
And welcome back to the Business Spotlight. Patrick Dewar here. We've got Jeannie Fuller in the room today, and we are talking about ways to create an endless supply of referrals for you and your business. Jeannie, thanks again for being here.
Oh, thank you.
I want to get into more about what you're doing to create the success that you're having, because I know you're doing a great deal of training, speaking, and presenting around the country to organizations that have a sales force, typically a fairly significant sales force, that they need to know how to get out of the old, in a sense, dialing for dollars, oh my God, please stop this, this is a rat race that just is unfun, to the, you said you had one client that was at the in 3 years was able to do what most people couldn't do in 5.
That's correct.
Awesome. So tell me about your...
Well, I'd like to tell you a story, Pat. I was training, again, in one of the financial investment firms in Rochester, New York. And this gentleman who walked in, very tall, had hair the color of mine, you know, he'd been around a while. And as he went by me...
Some of us have been around a while.
Yeah, I know. So he said, I hope this is going to be different. And I'm going, oh my gosh. So I'm up there putting all the energy, and I like gestures anyway. And when I got through, I found out from the regional VP that he had been in the firm for 33 years, and he ranked number 5 out of 14,000 people.
Wow.
Well, in a couple of weeks, he gave me a call, and he said, Jeannie, this stuff works. It really works. I'm going, good, because I'm staking my life on it, you know? And so what he had done, his first client that morning had been Steve, and he used my principles. So the first thing when Steve came in, he said, Steve, before we get into today's work, I just want to know what's going on. What's going on at the plant? What's happening for you? And he found a need, a problem that Steve was facing, and stopped the interview and called the other advisor, got that all set up. And then he highlighted what he had done for Steve over 10 years. And then he made a few suggestions. Steve took his suggestions, and as Steve is leaving and walked him to the door, he turned around and he said, Lyle, I really appreciate you taking those few moments, you know, when I first came in and calling that other advisor. I'm going to call him when I get back to the plant. Is there anything at all I could do for you? And Lyle says, well, as a matter of fact, there is. Even though I've been very successful, I'm still looking for more clients. And he said, I'm looking for somebody, about 52, 53 years old, probably lives on the north side of town. Kids are in college, may own a manufacturing plant. And I really like to deal with macho kind of guys. It's the kind of guy who would drive a Jeep Grand Cherokee. He's probably a hunter, and he's got a golden retriever in the back seat. And the guy came up with 3 referrals right then. And this was a guy using all the training his firm had given him for 10 years, never came up with anyone. And when Lyle walked him to the elevator, and when he got on, he held out the door, you know, and said, listen, Lyle, as soon as we get you those 3, I'll take you to my trade association. There's 28 more guys over there. They all have more assets than I do. And I'll help you get those as well. 31 referrals.
Sweet.
Did you catch the 3 major elements that made it work for Lyle, so that a man who hadn't gotten a single referral in 10 years, using all the training his firm had to offer, got 31 referrals that day? Let's look at that. Remember in the beginning of the story, he get Steve talking about what was going on in his world, and he uncovered a problem, and he found the perfect advisor to fix the problem. And so what happened was, the first element, he inspired Steve so that Steve wanted to give him a referral. The second thing that happened, and it was kind of right in the middle of the story, is after he inspired him, he ran him through the history of what he had done for him over the past 10 years. And so he taught him a way to tell his story without talking about all the money and the things that Steve didn't really want to talk about. It was talking about the service. So he taught him to recommend, to give a story. And then the third thing that stands out a little more prominently is he described that prospect very specifically. He picked somebody he thought Steve would recognize and described that type of prospect. It isn't all of his prospects. Very specific, down to the kind of the breed of the dog in the back seat. So he showed him how to recognize a lucrative prospect. Now we're going to break this down into a little more detail so you see how they all fit together and why this is so important, and why a gentleman who, using all the training a major firm had to offer, asking for referrals for 10 years, never got any from Steve, and in one appointment ended up with 31. So here are your slides. So as you could see, there are three major elements. They are inspire, recognize, and recommend. So let's analyze and look what happens if any one of these three are missing. The first thing is, if you don't teach them who is a profitable prospect and what to look for, they're kind of thinking, well, who would I talk to? And they may end up giving you an unqualified person, someone below your radar screen, or they say, well, let me think about it. Now, if inspire is missing, if you've done nothing for them, then they're wondering, well, why should I do anything for you? And nothing keeps happening. Or they're going to say, well, let me think about it. On the other hand, if you don't teach them how to recommend you, they're wondering, well, what do I say? And if they don't know what to say, there's a great deal of reluctance. And they'll end up, best case scenario, giving you just a name and a phone number. So you can see that we need all three elements to make referrals work for you. So let's look at it a little closer. So inspire, you reach out and help them. You're staying focused on them. So you may introduce them to someone who might be a referral source or might be a direct prospect and refer them. You're inspiring them to do something for you. Then we want to teach them how to recognize a profitable prospect. So we're going to ask you to, quote, paint a vivid mental picture of a lucrative prospect. Remember the story. Lyle said 52, 53 years old, lives on the north side of town, has a manufacturer. Oh, and I like macho kind of guys, would drive a Jeep Grand Cherokee, and he's got a golden retriever in the back seat. So the guy right away came up with 3 names, 28 more. Amazing. But probably the biggest reluctance of all is if they don't know what to say, they're just not going to want to recommend you. They're going to hold back. Oh my gosh, what do I say? But they don't ask you that. They just agree with you, and they're going to give you a name and a phone number. So the deal is that you've got to coach them how to tell a story. So you're telling them a moving story of how you deliver value to a single client and get them all revved up, and now they've got a story to tell, so they're really getting it. And as you will realize, that referrals then take on a whole new light. That's right. And you will get the referrals that you've always wanted. There you have the overlying strategy. And now it's time to get some specific tactics that make all of these work to bring in 31 or more referrals for you. It's the way we help you. It takes 37 minutes a week, or you could do it twice a week, but just 37 minutes, one skill at a time, and those lessons are a little shorter than this one. Just one skill at a time, put it into practice that week, and we'll be on our way to increasing revenue. So what do you say? Order now.